Hey, Katie.
Oh my gosh, Nathan! How are you?
Pretty good. It's been a nice little calming week. I got to spend the weekend doing a whole lot of nothing, which is
Love this for
always
you.
wonderful.
Love this for you. Nathan, today, who are we talking about?
We are talking about Princess Ness.
She's been described in history as the Helen of Troy of Wales. Nathan, are we going to get the pronunciations perfect?
Oh, I guarantee absolutely.
If you've never seen Welsh written down before,
Google it.
Google it. Also up top, I think we should say that she's a figure that we don't have a lot of concrete evidence about. So a lot of this is going to be from conjecture, but I still think it's a fun story. So
No facts, just vibes.
no facts, just vibes, because none of the facts exist. All right, so let's get into the life of Princess Nest. First of all, the name Nest, back then in Welsh, it was like the equivalent of the English name Agnes.
Ah.
Yeah. And she was born maybe 1085, we think. Her father was a king of a district. His name was Rhys ap Tudor. He was king of Deheubarth, which was a district in southern Wales.
Now, we haven't been to 11th century Wales on this show before, so let's take a little bit of time to get to know a little bit about the lay of the land.
Okay.
So, first off, let's talk names, because the naming conventions of Welsh people at the time was different than what we know now.
For sure.
So, our girl's full name is Nest Ver Rhys, which means Nest, daughter of Rhys.
Yeah.
And her dad is Rhys ap Tudor, which means Rhys, son of Tudor.
So I would be Katie Verch Joe, and you would be Nathan ap Charles, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Look at us. Look at us.
Look at us doing that. So, family names, a little bit confusing, and it could be confusing if you don't know that particular piece. Also, we need to discuss the setup of Wales at the time.
Yes.
Because it was a bunch of like small kingdoms, more or less ran independently from each other. And in fact, they're all often at war with each other, or at war with the Vikings, but who wasn't at
war with the Vikings in the 11th century? Oh my goodness.
Everyone was.
Everybody.
It was a mess.
It was a mess. Yes. So now we're going to see some overlap with some other episodes. In 1066, this little known guy, inconsequential guy from history, known as William the Conqueror, he rolls up into England from Normandy.
Is he gonna conquer some shit?
Why would you say that? Who can tell? We also talked about his wife, Matilda of Flanders, way back, like in season 2 or something. So William the Conqueror rolls in, and he does a conquering.
But in case you've never listened to those episodes, what you need to know from here is these folks came from Normandy and took over England and nearly genocided all of the Anglo-Saxons.
It was
genocided.
genocided. Is a proper use of that word? Yes, absolutely.
Needless to say, it was a rough time for the Anglo-Saxons.
It was a bad time for anybody living in England that wasn't French. Yes.
Yeah.
However, when William first came over from Normandy, he was more or less too busy to worry about Wales. Basically, before Nest was born, her dad got the chance to pay off William the Conqueror. And so he just paid off William the Conqueror, and William the Conqueror was like, fine, my hands are full. I'm killing all the Anglo-Saxons. It's fine. So long as you don't miss a payment, we're all good. So the first few years of Nest's life would have been relatively chill.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of her early years, what were they like? You know, by the time Nest hit the scene, her dad had fought off a ton of different contenders for his land, but he was pretty well settled.
Yeah.
Got married, had 3 kids.
We know for sure that she had two brothers, full brothers, named Griffith and Howell, and maybe a sister, but that's unclear because they only wrote down the boys.
Yeah, surprise! Not surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
We don't know a whole lot about her mom, except that her name was Gladys. And she was the daughter of another king in the area. She was quite a bit younger than her husband, and they were likely married as part of an alliance among the kings of Wales.
We're about to do a lot of assuming. So this probably, you're going to have to get used to it because it's coming up a lot in this episode. But we assume she was raised and educated mainly by her mother, along with her brothers.
And we aren't 100% sure if she would have been taught to read, because the only kids we know for sure that were taught to read were people that were monks or priests. And that ain't her, girl.
Obviously.
She's a mistress.
Obviously not. So yeah, we don't know for sure what her education would have been like, but we know it probably didn't include a bunch of languages because the daughters of the kings of Wales, like we see a lot where, like Catherine of Aragon, for instance, marry a Spanish princess into the English royal family for alliance. Wales was so fighting amongst themselves that they just married the Welsh princesses into other Welsh families. So she wouldn't have been taught to speak other languages at all. She only spoke Welsh. And it's very unlikely that she would have learned anything about any of the other cultures. Maybe a little bit about the Viking cultures, like Swedish or something, because they were always around fucking shit up. But she wouldn't have known anything about England, France.
Yeah, no, she wouldn't have. She would have been kind of in the dark about that.
Yeah.
And due to Welsh customs at the time, we have to assume that this is the path she thought her life would follow.
Of course.
She'd marry a guy from another powerful family in Wales. They'd have kids. She'd maybe go with him when he was trying to raise troops for some battle or something. But she'd raise her kids, host parties here and there, go to church. That was not how her life was going to go.
Narrator voice. She was mistaken. Okay, things changed considerably for Nest and her family when she was about like 5 years old. William the Conqueror had died. And remember, her dad had a bit of like a, I scratch your back, you pay me taxes relationship. But when he died, his son, William II, was on the throne, and this was trouble.
I knew you were trouble when you walked in.
Yeah, and William II, he goes down in history known as William Rufus. He's not a popular king. And Rufus meant redhead, which, I don't know, news to me. So he, like, looks at Wales, and he's like, okay, my dad let all these kings and stuff pay him off, just kind of left them alone. And he's like, yeah, that's not the approach I'm going to take, like, at all.
No, not at all. And William Rufus thought the best way to get people to stay loyal to him is to build more castles and give them to his friends.
Yeah.
But they were starting to run out of land to build them in England. And after they moved into Wales, they were like, well, they already have a shitload of castles here. So Rufus and his friends decided to just run out the people already living in the castles, like, hey, mine now.
Which started a very long history of England being dickheads to everybody else on their island collective. Yes. Unfortunately for Nest, her family, they were living in one of those castles that William Rufus decided he needed. And her dad went to battle. He went to fight for his lands. And this dude spent so much of his life either preparing for battle or being in battle. So Nest was probably not stressed about her dad going to war because he did it all the fucking time. But
In 1093, Nest's dad, Rhys, was killed in battle, and pretty much immediately, her family's life is completely turned upside down. She would have been around 8 years old, so sweet baby Nest.
Sweet baby Nest. How fucking scary. Because not only is her dad dead, the castle that she grew up in is overtaken by these Norman assholes. And they're speaking French, which she does not know a lick of. Her mom is scared and her dad is dead and she's 8. Nathan, put yourself in her shoes. Like, can you imagine? Not into Nest was stressed.
So her brother Griffith, who was even younger than she was taken into hiding in Ireland. So I guess they were killing baby boys?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, if they took him and not her, I have to assume that his life was at danger. And her life.
Yeah. And imagine explaining that to your young daughter. Like, your baby brother is fleeing the country so that these weird guys don't kill him? Yeah. I'm sure Ness was stressed.
I'm sure Ness was very stressed. Hashtag Ness was stressed. Yes. But they didn't kill daughters because daughters could become commodity later. And
yay, I love this.
Yay. So she was taken hostage by the Norman invaders when she was about 8 years old, 9 years old. And probably, question mark, taken to England. Probably.
Yeah, maybe. She was removed from the place where she grew up.
Yeah.
It seems like her mom and younger brother were taken hostage too, and they may have been taken together. Again, unclear. But for her sake, OMG, I hope so.
I hope so. And then for about 5 or 6 years, we just simply don't know what was going on with Nest. Hopefully she was less stressed. One theory is that they put her into a Norman-run convent in England. She would have learned French because, again, then after the Norman invasion, everyone in the royal courts spoke French, not English.
They may have also been put in the house of some other higher-ranking family in England.
Yeah.
But they almost certainly would have been treated well. They would have been fed, clothed, the kids would have been educated. You know, that would have all been serious to them.
Yeah.
Because King William was going to make sure that Nest was a good marriage option for some Norman noble one day. Yeah, because history's a bag of dicks. And he was going to marry her to one of the dudes whose family was given castles in Wales.
Marry her to a Norman dude living in Wales, and then hopefully the Welsh people would be less pissed off.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So time passes. She resurfaces in the court of William Rufus. She's about 16, and guess what? She is a smoke show. She is hot. Ooh. We don't know a whole lot about Nest herself, besides what the chroniclers have decided to tell us. And what they've decided to tell us is that she was hot. Because, again, history's a bag of dicks.
Yep, that's all she is. She's just hot.
She was just,
who cares?
Just fucking hot.
That ass.
Them titties and that ass. That ass.
Yeah,
Them titties and that ass. Sorry.
Yeah. Don't apologize for that. I love this for us. She was a sexy, sexy lady, and everyone who met her fell in love with her.
Yeah, including the king's little brother, this guy named Henry. This is Henry I of England, Empress Matilda's dad. And he had something like 21 illegitimate children.
Ooh.
I know. He was a ladies' man. Brown chicken, brown girl. And he took one look at Nest and he went, yep, we'll subscribe. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Henry was like 19 years older than Nest.
Blech.
And his oldest child was likely going to be older than her. But soon after arriving at court, she became the mistress to the king's brother.
All right, when the king's brother starts showing interest in her, like, what do you think? Don't you think somebody was probably like, hey, girl, be the king's brother's mistress, have a kid with the king's brother, and you're set for life, don't you think?
Yeah, that kind of feels like...
There are worse things in the world.
Yes. Yeah, we have no idea about how Nest felt about this, but it was a strategic way to get ahead.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying, if she did use it as a money move, I'm not mad about it, you know?
Give some head to get ahead?
And this is why we have an explicit rating, ladies and gentlemen.
So in 1103, when Ness would have been about 18, she gave birth to a baby boy they named Henry Fitzroy. By 1103, Henry has become king and has married Matilda of Scotland.
Who we've talked about on Patreon.
Yes, we have. And he decides that it's time for Ness to serve her purpose as bride to one of his friends in Wales. That's what women are in the culture. Bargaining chips, prizes. Yay, you're like the prized cow. Congratulations.
Being a woman is great. Super good time. Very nice. There was this guy named Gerald of Windsor, or Gerald de Windsor. He'd been looking after this castle called Pembroke Castle for a while, and he's doing a good job. Nest and her son are sent back to Wales, and she is going to marry this Gerald dude that she does not know.
Oof. Let's roll back up to some speculation station. I wonder if it all felt like whiplash going from Wales to England back to Wales. Like,
yeah.
But now she's in Wales. But everyone is speaking French. And all the castles have been redone. And lots of laws have changed. So everything is just different.
So let's discuss. Do you think she's happy to be back home, or do you think she's like, I mean, she's been gone for 10 years. Do you think she's like...
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't feel like it was home.
Yeah, absolutely. People around here aren't my people. The castle that she moved into when she went to marry this dude was a castle that had been owned by her dad. But could you imagine moving back into the house that you grew up in, but everybody there is speaking a different language? They're all responsible for the death of your dad. But she's been raised with these people for the last 10 years. We're never going to relate to what she's experiencing right now.
Her husband would have been happy to have her because she's bringing him legitimacy to be in her father's old lands. Oh, and because she's hot as fucking hell.
Oh, so he took one look at her and he was like, yep. Smash.
Yeah.
Smash. That helps.
Yeah, it does.
All right. Let's talk about their marriage. Was it happy? We know he's like about 20 years older than her. So we don't love that, but also she would have been used to it. Also, they had 5 kids together. So it couldn't have been that unhappy.
Right? They could, like, maybe average?
And there's no reports,
there's
no reports at all of him being unkind to her. So, I mean, the bar is in hell.
Now, let's fast forward just a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
And we're going to get to the part that Nest is most famous for. And it's the reason why she's called the Welsh Helen of Troy. And this story is why we actually know about her, because lots of trauma.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, so new character alert. Owain ap Cadogan. God bless me. I think that's how Owain is Nest's second cousin from like the Welsh family.
Okay.
Sometime in 1109, so Nest is about 24 or so, she meets Owain, and there are a couple of different reports on how they met. One is that just like he heard that she was beautiful, so like he got himself an invite into a party. Another theory is that Owain's dad was throwing this big party and Nest would have been invited to that because she is of Welsh nobility.
But they do meet, and Owain falls in love hard with Nest.
And this is where the story gets murky. Was Nest in love with Owain? There's been several ways this story has been told. One is that she fell back in love with him because they would have been like the same age. They both would have been Welsh. And so maybe they bonded. Maybe they fell in love. That's not unreasonable.
Yeah, so all guesses. But what we do know is that some traumatic shit is about to go down. Trigger warning.
Yep.
This section of the story may contain some sexual assault, so if that's not something you want to hear right now, we completely respect that. Check out the timestamps,
Yes.
please.
Yes. You ready for the drama, Nathan?
I love me a good drama story.
I live for the drama. And
Drama
yes.
trauma.
So after Owain and Nest initially meet, he is smitten kitten. And we have no idea how she feels in response.
No. Yeah, something we should mention is that Owain's dad is considered a rebel. Mm-hmm. Owain and his dad were not considered friends. Which, honestly, if the two are having a romance, kind of makes
even
it
hotter.
hotter.
Hello, like you're a rebel. My husband hates you.
Let's bone.
One night, Nest and her husband and their kids, because her husband Gerald built several castles, but they're staying in Carew Castle. Which, Nathan, I want you to click on this link. I can include it.
I see. It's beautiful.
Look at that. Yes. Beautiful.
Wow.
It's one of the more impressive castles that Gerald built. But apparently, I'm going to say he fucking skimped on the security system. Because one night while there's...
get ADT.
No, he
No
could not
ADT.
put up that little, like, thing in his front yard. One night, they're sleeping, and Owain and a bunch of his friends scale the walls and just start raiding the castle. How did they not, like, have a security guard? What? I need more information. Anyway.
Nest and her husband wake up, realize what's going on, and Nest helps Gerald escape. Gerald escapes through the latrine shaft, which is a hole in the wall attached to Ye Old Dusty's castle. Basically, it's in the toilets, so
It's literally the
escaped through a
shithole. It's literally
Yeah.
the shithole. You know what it made me think of in Shawshank Redemption? You know when Andy's like crawling through the sewer, through all the shit? Gerald is Shawshank Redemptioning out of there.
Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah. He is pulling an Andy from Shawshank.
Say that 5 times fast.
Nope.
Shawshank Redemption.
Couldn't if my life depended on it. I have a couple of questions here. And we can pull up to Speculation Station again and discuss it if you want. So Nest is like, our enemies are at the door. Get the fuck out of here. Why is he so okay with leaving his wife and his kids to the intruders?
Maybe he doesn't think that they're after them and they're just after him.
Maybe he thinks, like, surely they wouldn't hurt an unarmed woman and children.
And that's my first thought, is that he's like, oh, someone's scaling the walls of the castle. They're after me, not you guys, so let me go escape. But it could also be a little bit of misogyny of like, y'all don't matter. It's just me that matters.
Well, but he would fucking care about his sons, right?
Yeah, like that doesn't...
Brings me to, why was Nest so eager to get him to Shawshank Redemption? Again, she may have also been like, well, they're not going to hurt us. We're just unarmed women and children. Or if you want to go with a more romantic version of the story, you could be like, she wanted to get him out of the picture.
Yeah, she wanted to get him out of the picture because she was in love with Owain.
Question
Right?
mark?
So when Owain finds Nest, he maybe rapes her?
They definitely have intercourse. Whether she wanted it or not is up for question.
Yeah, this is one of those things that can get really sticky when you talk about it.
This is the same Helen of Troy. It's the same story.
Yeah.
It's the
same story.
Did this woman want to be kidnapped? So we don't know. There's so many versions of this story, and some of them are saying that she's a victim, and some of them are saying that she's a willing participant. Will we ever know the answer?
No, we're not. No. And likely it's somewhere in between. It's sticky situation.
Yes. Whatever went down, Owain took Nest and her 2 oldest kids with Gerald, William and Maurice, and looted the hell out of the castle. And then they bounced. What the fuck was Gerald doing? Was he just sitting in, like, the sewage being scared? This has lowered my opinion of Gerald if he's just letting his wife be, in his mind, raped and kidnapped, you know?
Yeah, it sounds weird.
I have several follow-up questions for Sewage Gerald.
But the next morning, after Gerald got himself out of the gutter...
I guess.
Well, that's when the shit really hit the fan. Ha, ha.
Yes. First of all, news had already gotten to Owain's dad, who is a powerful Welsh guy, like, of Welsh origins, still, like, having power in Wales. And so Owain's dad, Cadogan, was pissed. He was like, you fucking idiot. Which, again, this reminds me so much of the Helen of Troy story, because wasn't it the same deal with Paris's dad, the king, being like,
yep,
please tell me you did not just kidnap a queen of, like, enemy territory. Please tell me you did not just do this. And Owain's like, okay, but if I had... would that really be a bad thing? And Cadogan is like, yes!
Absolutely. And so Gerald's dudes are rocking up to Cadogan's house, ready for a fight. And he's like, no. I'm on your side this time.
This wasn't me. This is my dumbass son.
I had nothing to do with this. He's an idiot. I'll even help you find him. Because he's such an idiot.
Yes. And meanwhile, someone has written to King Henry. Remember, this is his ex-mistress that he has a child with. Mm-hmm. And they're like, someone has kidnapped Nest. And we don't know where she is. And she's maybe been raped. And he is like... Because remember, Henry I was not a perfect man. But he recognized all of his quote-unquote illegitimate children. And he loved, maybe not romantically, but he still loved all the mothers and took care of them as well. And so he took this as a disrespect to himself. And he's king now, you know, so he's sending out a Nest rescue mission.
A Nest rescue mission.
Yes.
But then the Welsh were like, whoa. You're getting awfully aggressive over something that the majority of us had nothing to do with.
Yeah.
So TLDR, there's fighting with the Normans. The Welsh are fighting with each other.
Basically, it's a civil war. Yes. Yeah. Where is Nest? And what does she think about the whole thing? If she had been in on the whole thing, she was not expecting him to kidnap her kids. Because she is like, if you want me to be faithful to you, send my kids back to their father. And so he does. Which, I don't, what do you think about that? If he does send the kids back to their father, it makes me think it's not a hostage situation for money.
No,
because obviously
it's not.
His eldest sons, I know it sucks, but historically, eldest sons were more hot property than wives.
Why send the kids back? That is a weird...
I don't know. We'll never know! It's so frustrating!
I
Study
know.
history, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
But she stayed with Owain for a while. How long she stayed? Still kind of unclear. Could have been a couple months. Could have been up to 2 years. Who knows?
Yeah. And how willing she was, again, completely unclear. But, you know, again, if you're familiar with the story of Helen and Troy, you can see why, up to this point, she's called the Welsh Helen. Mm-hmm. Men are fighting over her. But is it really over her? Or is it because they wanted to fight anyway, and here's a convenient reason to fight?
Mm-hmm. Blame it on a woman.
Blame it on a woman.
It's all her fault. If she wasn't so pretty.
If she wasn't so sexy.
It's her fault for looking so pretty all the time.
Titties.
Blech. So I wish we could give you some resolution here, but nope. Sometimes we don't like this. We're not going to give you all the answers that you want because we just don't know them. And eventually Owain and his dad realize, hey, it's not safe for them to be in Wales anymore. So they hightail it to Ireland, and Nest was left behind.
Was she relieved? Was she heartbroken? The world may never know. No, like, we have no idea. But yeah, so dude hightailed it back. She was left in Wales. And so she just went back to her husband. And we just don't know. Was she happy to go back? Was she relieved? Or was it like, oh my God, my lover just left me? What? There are some rumors that her and Owain had a son together. But I don't know.
There's a version of this story where Nest had a son with Owain because he does have an illegitimate son by another unknown mother that his family raised for him. So maybe that was Nest's son. The unknown mother, she may have been that one.
I mean, she wouldn't have taken that baby back to her husband's castle.
No, absolutely not.
No.
Yeah. Most historians believe, though, that Owain would have wanted everyone to know that was Nest's kid, so
for like the validity so I feel like if it was Nest's kid, his family would have been like, yeah, this is Nest's kid, instead of just being like, oh, it's some unnamed mother. For sure. As far as we know, though, Nest just fucking dusts her shoulders off and goes back to her husband, and life returns to normal. That's what the chroniclers want us to believe, but Nathan, how could it possibly just go back to normal?
No, there's no way. There's war going on, like there's all sorts of issues, but
and also she's just been kidnapped. I wish we knew more, is what I'm getting at.
I know.
So Owain flew to Ireland after like a year. Henry the First like emails him and is like, hey, I really need some people. I need some boots on the ground back in Wales. And he comes back, and Gerald, against Henry's wishes, shoots him, kills him. So Gerald is apparently mad, still big mad. He still took that shit personally.
Wow.
How satisfying for Gerald, though.
I know, right? He gets to kill the
Yeah.
dude that maybe raped his wife.
Or maybe just had sex with his wife.
Gerald did end up dying a few years later. He would have been 50-ish, and she would have been 30-ish.
So she's a pretty young widow. Yeah.
And she's rich, bitch.
She is so rich. And we've talked about on this show pretty much the only time that women historically had autonomy is when they are rich widows. And there's all kinds of rumors of what Nest did with her widowhood.
For instance, we know she had at least one love affair after her husband's death. He was the sheriff of Pembroke, a guy named William, which was incredibly scandalous, and we love to hear it.
We love a scandalous bitch.
This girl to me kind of seems like, what? I fuck kings. I fuck sheriffs. I'm going to do what makes me
I
happy.
do what I fucking want. However, since she is still young and still of like childbearing ages, and because the King of England and her sons have control over her life, because history is a what, Nathan? What do all those historians say? History is a what?
A bag of dicks.
A bag of dicks. Yes, history is a bag of dicks. So her sons force her into another marriage. But it seems like it was maybe happy, question mark? He was the constable for the city of Cardigan. So everybody was real cozy in their little sweaters. And they had another child together. So she's had like 8 kids.
I know, and it feels like every time she gets married to a man, they're like, maybe she was happy?
Yeah. Well, that's all women into
I know, it's like, we don't really know. But either way, she's a fertile myrtle, bitch.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's kind of where the story ends.
Yeah.
So she maybe died in about 1135 at the age of 50.
Yeah.
But we just got nothing on the last 20 years of her life at all.
Honestly, Nest had probably around like 7 or 8 kids. So she's got a lineage, though, because her family married into the Norman culture, the Anglo-Saxons, the Irish, everything, the French. And one of her grandsons is this guy named Gerald of Wales.
So, also, her kids married into the Irish noble families.
It's believed that the President JFK, the United States President JFK, is a descendant of hers.
We aren't sure where she was buried, but we believe Carew Castle, and they say that she still haunts that castle to this day.
Love this for her. Even though the story was left with a bunch of question marks, I still had a lot of fun telling it. What about you, Nathan?
Me too. Like, again, we had some facts, mostly vibes. It's sometimes that's what we get whenever we roll the dice with some of these women is, unfortunately, you're kind of bound to the patriarchal way of describing history, so we don't really know how she felt.
Yeah.
And we don't know if she was actually kidnapped or not. But super fascinating. I understand why people compare her to Helen of Troy. Because it just makes sense.
For sure. Well, let's raise a glass to Nest. Cheers.